The legend of Atlantis, a thousand-year-old mystery. Buried deep from the story, part fact and part fiction, of the ancient Greek philosopher Plato over 2,300 years ago, Atlantis remains a controversial topic in the scientific and exploration communities. More and more theories are being proposed speculating about the origin, location, and the manner in which this supercontinent suddenly vanished overnight. Some believe that Atlantis was the dwelling place of esteemed deities, while others call it a sanctuary for ancient extraterrestrial beings. And so, for thousands of years, people have been searching for this city as a lost treasure sunken deep beneath the ocean. What have we found? When will the truth about Atlantis finally be revealed? Are we wasting our time? Everything you need to know, want to know, and should know about the legend of Atlantis will be unveiled in today's video from Vu Trung Nguyen Thuy. The legend of Atlantis, a thousand-year-old mystery buried deep. The continent of Atlantis, a great and mighty nation, a dominant force in the ancient world. Yet, it abruptly ended after only one single catastrophe, stimulating the human imagination for more than 2,000 years. The origin of the Atlantis story traces back to the Greek philosopher Plato, appearing around the year 360 before Christ. More precisely, Atlantis is mentioned by Plato in his two dialogue works, Timaeus and Critias. In the two works, Plato created dialogues featuring Timaeus and Critias with the great Socrates, and Atlantis is a significant topic in these conversations. The city of Atlantis, according to Plato's description, was a large island that existed about 9,000 years before his time. Atlantis received the protection of the sea god Poseidon in Greek mythology. Plato's description in Critias indicates that this island was even larger than Libya and Asia Minor, which is modern-day Turkey, combined. It was situated in the ocean just outside the Pillars of Heracles, which is the present-day Strait of Gibraltar. The location possessed favorable conditions in both weather and terrain. Thus, Atlantis had a surpassing civilization with development that reached an incredible level. The military of this city-state was exceedingly powerful, especially in naval combat capabilities. They traveled and occupied many vast areas. In Africa, the Atlantean army advanced as far as Egypt, and in Europe, they conquered a large territory extending to Tyrrhenia. Although it had a vast area and a strongly developed civilization, the end of Atlantis was extremely precarious and happened rapidly. In only one night, in the year 9600 before Christ, a massive flood accompanied by a terrible earthquake caused the entire island to sink into the deep ocean and vanish forever. The story of a huge island with a mighty empire that suddenly collapsed and disappeared seems like a fantasy. Many people believe that Plato's account is not real, and the island existed only in his imagination. Plato's own description of the island's demise is full of fanciful elements. He affirmed that the gods, being angered, sank the island and all the people living there. One hypothesis suggests that the Greek philosopher wished to create Atlantis as an ideal model for a civilization. It appears he wanted to warn humankind about sin and the blasphemy of the divine. If they were to do such a thing, they would be punished by the gods. To this day, no official surviving record confirms the existence of Atlantis apart from Plato's documents. Nevertheless, for thousands of years, people have always been curious and fascinated by this story, which is half true and half false. And people are still diligently trying to prove the reality of Atlantis throughout those thousands of years. The idea that Atlantis was a real historical place, not merely a legend invented by Plato, only appeared towards the end of the 19th century. In his book about Atlantis, Atlantis the Antediluvian World, published in 1882, the writer Ignatius Donnelly argued that a sophisticated civilization must certainly have existed before. This is because such a civilization would have been necessary to pass on the achievements of the ancient world, such as metallurgy, language, and agriculture. If one relied solely on the people of ancient times, they did not possess the sophisticated techniques to invent these surpassing achievements on their own. The author envisioned that more than 10,000 years ago, the water level of the Atlantic Ocean was not as deep as it is currently. Therefore, he described a continent that was submerged by the encroaching seawater and sank at the precise location the philosopher Plato had mentioned in the Atlantic Ocean, just outside the Pillars of Heracles. the two rock formations marking the entrance to the Strait of Gibraltar. Long after modern oceanography and plate tectonics made many breakthroughs and found flaws in the aforementioned hypothesis, some people still continue to believe in it. Perhaps this is primarily because it coincides with the location where the philosopher Plato stated Atlantis lay in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Drawing inspiration from Donnelly, many later writers expanded upon his theory, adding their own hypotheses and oceanic speculation about where Atlantis might have once existed. One of these writers is Charles Berlitz, the author of many books that decode mystical phenomena. In the 1970s, Berlitz claimed that Atlantis was a real continent located off the coast of the Bahamas and had fallen victim to the infamous Bermuda Triangle. This means Atlantis was truly swallowed, just like the planes or ships that crossed this strange sea area. Supporters of this theory pointed to the discovery of things that looked like artificial walls and streets found off the coast of Bimini. However, scientists evaluated these structures and determined that they were only natural rock formations shaped on the beach. Another hypothesis suggests that Atlantis was actually buried under the Antarctic ice sheet today. It is based on the work of Professor Charles Hapgood, author of the book Earth's Shifting Crust, published in 1958. According to Hapgood, about 12,000 years ago, the Earth's crust shifted, and a continent with a temperate climate moved south and became present-day Antarctica. That continent was considered the homeland of an advanced civilization. But subsequently, the climate here changed abruptly, becoming glacial, causing the inhabitants of the civilization, specifically the Atlanteans and their magnificent city, to be buried under many layers of ice. Mr. Hapgood's theory appeared before the scientific community fully understood the knowledge of plate tectonics. Therefore, his idea of a shifting crust later became an unfounded belief. A more recent hypothesis about the Atlanteans relates to the powerful civilization that flourished on the Greek islands of Crete and Thera more than 4,000 years ago. That civilization, called Minoan, named after the legendary king Minos, is considered the first great civilization of the Europeans. The Minoans built splendid palaces, constructed paved roads, and were the first Europeans to use a written language. However, while at the height of its power, the Minoan civilization suddenly disappeared from history. This event strengthened the belief in a connection between this great destroyed civilization and the continent of Atlantis, described by the philosopher Plato. Scholars believe that around 1600 before Christ, a massive earthquake shook the volcanic island of Thera, causing an eruption that released 10 million tons of rock, ash, and gas into the atmosphere. The colossal tsunamis following that volcanic eruption were enough to wipe out the Minoan cities throughout the entire region. The Minoans were then invaded by mainland Greek regions while they were severely devastated. However, a fact remains that throughout history, most historians and scientists have concluded that the philosopher Plato's account of the lost island of Atlantis is purely fictional. According to this argument, the Greek philosopher fabricated the story of Atlantis as his desire for an ideal civilization, and the story of its downfall was a warning about the gods punishing human arrogance. No text mentions that Atlantis ever existed apart from the dialogues of the philosopher Plato, not even in any of the countless other texts that survived from ancient Greek times. Again, although the fields of oceanography and seafloor mapping have made incredible progress, no trace has been found to accurately confirm such a civilization to this day. Returning to reality, the only way to officially end the debates about Atlantis is 1. For us to find it by diving into the ocean and searching, or 2. To drain all the water from the ocean, forcing the legendary city to reveal itself for verification. Therefore, we need both theoretical evidence and actual archaeological evidence. With modern exploration, humankind is increasingly acquiring new evidence about the legend of Atlantis and other sunken cities around the world. Let us visit this location, a remote place in the waters of Japan. As the seawater gradually recedes from this Yonaguni island, an extraordinary and colossal structure slowly appears. Is this an ancient construction built by some advanced civilization, or is it merely a special natural formation over time? Yonaguni Island is located in the East China Sea. The nature of the currents and ocean streams here is very dangerous, along with continuous storms whenever the season arrives. But these challenges could not deter the divers. This man is one of the most pioneering and courageous divers in the entire region. His name is Kihachiro Aratake. In 1986, Aratake was diving to find a suitable location to observe a school of sharks for research purposes. However, more than just an observation spot, he made a great discovery, a discovery that astonished the entire world. It was a complex of ruins with strange stone blocks resembling terraced fields. It was a truly extraordinary sight, as the ruins stretched over an area equal to 5 football fields combined. Smooth stone walls rose from the seabed, as tall as an 8-story building. Subtly arranged steps climbed upward from the base and from all different sides, and the geometric shapes were perfectly and astonishingly carved. This is certainly not something that could have formed naturally without human involvement. So, what exactly is it? Could it be new evidence of the legendary continent of Atlantis? What will we find here? A lost city? An ancient pyramid? Or hidden treasures? Our lives are endless journeys. Just like an explorer on the path to finding the treasure left behind by the great Atlantean king. This Atlantis collection at Helios is inspired by the mythical tale of Atlantis, the mighty King Aquaman, and the mystery of the deep ocean. It is the perfect blend of the most characteristic elements to produce exquisitely crafted creations. Each product in the Atlantis collection represents the will to overcome fear, brave the dangers of the dark ocean, and discover new things. Talent, power, wisdom, and class are what you will receive with these sophisticated and unique products. Make yourself truly outstanding and distinctive to attract all eyes around you. Wearing the Atlantis collection, you are the cool king during this romantic autumn season. The reference and purchase link for the products will be left in the description section of this video. Continuing the journey at Yonaguni. As mentioned, this area is very dangerous, so deep diving and thorough research of the structure is not something to risk at all. The only way to explore it is to use the new Quest 3D technology to survey and map the terrain around the area. And thanks to the use of the most modern and sophisticated sonar in the world, we have almost drained the ocean and painted a detailed picture of what lies beneath the strange waters. This is what the ocean has been hiding. Vast, magnificent, and spectacular are the words we can use to describe it. This incredible discovery attracted global attention. Divers, reporters, historians, and archaeologists flocked to Yonaguni. They all shared one question: what exactly is this structure? Among the curious individuals who came here was Professor Masaki Kimura, one of Japan's leading marine geologists. In 1996, he began surveying the area. After many years of studying the formation of the ruins, he came to the conclusion that this is the remnant of an ancient, advanced civilization, an ancient city sunk by an earthquake about 12,000 years ago. Professor Kimura also stated that he initially thought the structures were natural, but everything changed his view after his first dive to survey. He found traces of grinding on the rocks, inscriptions on the stone slabs, and various animal shapes carved into the rock. In addition to the discoveries south of Yonaguni Island, important surveys were conducted west of the island. In 1990, divers found a colossal pyramid built from stone blocks. The pyramid is 183 meters wide and 43 meters high. It was constructed from rectangular stone slabs and has 5 layers. There are also a few smaller structures nearby, similar to the pyramid. They include layers of rock about 10 meters wide and about 2 meters high. Not stopping there, remnants that look like a road running around the main structure were discovered. Subsequently, more long roads, large avenues, huge staircase structures, massive gateway structures, and colossal stone blocks that were precisely and meticulously carved were found. They all harmonized in a unified architectural whole that they had never seen before. They are clearly the relatively intact remains of a lost city. Many other relics, including a stone building, a structure that looks like a cave surrounded by columns like this, also greatly impressed the archaeologists. And even a human head statue like this. It is evident that the features on the human face statue are still very clear, similar to other stone heads in Peru. Near the colossal head statue, groups of stone figures were found. This indicates that the builders of the ruins beneath the seabed belonged to a very progressive civilization. What is even more remarkable is that there are no traces of limestone surrounding this architectural area. meaning this structure was located above sea level in the past. To this day, there is no evidence that the inhabitants of ancient Japanese culture could have built them. In other words, someone from the distant prehistoric era constructed it before some kind of geological sea change caused an entire large landmass to sink, dragging this great unfinished structure along with it. Seabed assessments suggest that this structure could date back to around 8,000 to 10,000 years before Christ. After decades of discovering this structure, we still have not figured out which civilization built it. If this structure is artificial, who created it? We do not have any historical documentation mentioning a civilization in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And if there is one, it can only be the legendary civilization of Atlantis. With what we have just seen, from the magnificence to the sophistication that Yonaguni possesses, it is not impossible that this is the sunken continent of Atlantis we have always been searching for. However, these seabed ruins are not only found in Japan, but in oceans and continents across the entire world. Is Yonaguni Atlantis? No one dares to confirm this. However, actual archaeological evidence supporting the existence of Atlantis appears in many other places as well. In 1999, the French archaeologist Frank Gaudio discovered another city believed to be the remnants of the mysterious city of Atlantis. It is called Thonis, the forgotten city submerged beneath the ocean. Or, the Greeks called it Herakleion, in honor of Heracles. According to the transmitted legend, it was at the sacred temples of this city where the new pharaohs received the divine power of Amun, finally legitimizing their rule over the lands. Although this was a wealthy and very important city at the time, it could not escape its fate of submergence. It is believed that the Great Flood was real and it caused this city to sink into the Mediterranean Sea in the 2nd century before Christ, during the Hellenistic period after Egypt was conquered by Alexander the Great. With the finding of the sunken city of Thonis, scientists uncovered a series of invaluable discoveries. Here we have homes spanning hundreds of kilometers, temples and colossal public structures, gold, copper coins, and jewelry. In short, countless remnants of a high civilization that perished. Not only that, but the Barus of ancient Egypt was also found. These huge transport ships were described by the Greek philosopher and historian Herodotus in the 5th century before Christ after a visit to Egypt. Herodotus described these Egyptian vessels in detail in his work, Histories, the first historical narrative of ancient times. However, because there was never any evidence of the existence of these ships, many considered it a legend. It took 2,500 years to prove that Herodotus was, after all, not wrong. The Barus found in the sunken city of Herakleion measured 28 meters, a colossal size at the time. Experts emphasize that its design was ideal for navigation, especially in the Nile River region. Among the ancient sunken ships, divers encountered what is believed to be a sacred jar, an object used by the ancient Egyptians to perform religious rituals. Although images of these ritual jars are found all over Egypt, finding one in real life is a rare discovery. In fact, this is the only sacred jar found from this period. Experts believe it may have been used as part of the ritual celebrating the resurrection of the god Osiris. Another discovery that astonished the scientific community is a black granite stele, over 2 meters tall, covered with hieroglyphs. It is even older than the famous Rosetta Stone. This allows scholars to decipher and translate ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. All the discoveries made at Herakleion demonstrate the city's immense importance, not only commercially, but also politically and religiously. Researchers have pointed out many other images on the huge stele depicting the dynastic rites that each pharaoh had to perform to legitimize his power. Every new pharaoh had to enter this temple to receive power from the supreme god. Basically, this was a city of paramount significance with cultural and religious structures more sacred than anywhere else. With the power and spiritual strength discovered at Herakleion, is this not another compelling evidence for the existence of the legendary continent of Atlantis? Most recently, at the end of April 2022, the ancient and scientific communities were once again stirred when a strange yellow brick road, believed to lead to Atlantis, was discovered. Scientists from the expedition conducted a journey to a deep ridge on the seabed north of Hawaii Island and found a strange road. Their initial goal was to investigate the trail of cracks, stemming from thousands of fissures in the central and western Pacific that have long been poorly understood. During the latest expedition, the research team accidentally found the yellow brick road with distinct rectangular blocks that looked as if they were constructed by human hands. According to those who believe in the myth, the newly discovered road could lead to the lost city of Atlantis. It was so strange that one explorer in the group had to exclaim, "That is a rare yellow brick road." This could be the path leading to the place dubbed the City of Atlantis. According to the description, in the center of the Atlantean Empire, the city had a colossal harbor wall and columns leading to a great entrance. There was a temple dedicated to the god Poseidon and large circular plots of land that the Atlanteans cultivated for living. Indeed, a pattern of cracked dry bricks appearing in the middle of the ocean like this is an utterly astonishing phenomenon, but it does not come without a logical and reasonable explanation. The yellow brick road is most likely a layer of palagonite rock and is also a typical example of active volcanic geology on the ocean floor from ancient times. The perpendicular cracks, which look as if they were human-made on this road, may be the result of a process of stress from the heating and cooling during many continuous eruptions. But we need to reiterate that those are still only the opinions of a few individuals, and the most accurate explanations still require time to be found. In truth, if you are a person with a passion for and often research the legend of Atlantis, you would probably also know about another similar civilization named Lemuria. According to descriptions from the myth, the Lemurians were on average 3 meters tall, and their skin color changed from green to blue depending on the season of the year. Their faces were striking with large eyes, and the two upper and lower eyelids moved like elevator doors when they closed or opened their eyes. And notably, the Lemurians did not breathe with lungs, but respired through their skin. The term Lemuria first appeared in 1864 in the work The Mammals of Madagascar by the English geologist Philip Sclater. This scientist asserted that present-day Madagascar and India are the remnants of a vanished supercontinent called Lemuria. Furthermore, some ancient records indicated that the Mayas considered themselves descendants of the Atlanteans, the ancient Egyptians, and some mysterious blue-skinned people. Afterward, many different hypotheses emerged about a Lemurian continent that sank deep beneath the ocean, inhabited by a unique blue-skinned people. Some theories even say that Lemuria was a nation that reached the peak of civilization and prosperity in the 14th century before Christ. However, others assert that Lemuria was a single country with its own language that flourished and existed from about 78,000 to 20,000 years ago. The continent of Lemuria is believed to be the place where the oldest human civilization formed and developed. But to this day, scientific viewpoints cannot agree on the scope or geographical location of Lemuria. Some scientists even refute the existence of this continent in the past. However, there are some arguments indicating that Lemuria once existed, stretching as far as 8,000 kilometers from north to south and 5,000 kilometers wide from east to west. That means Lemuria extended from India to the Australian continent. One of the proven arguments for the existence of Lemuria is the presence of similar plant and animal species found only in the southern extremes of the continents. This proves that a bridge must have existed between the continents today, which scientists believe was Lemuria. So, what about the inhabitants of Lemuria? Were they 3 meters tall as described in the legend? Or did they possess strange blue skin? No archaeological evidence of the Lemurians has been found yet. However, by translating the ancient texts of many perished civilizations, some basic features about the Lemurian people and culture have been sketched out. The Lemurians are believed to have reached a high level of science and technology. They lived in houses with transparent roofs. Additionally, the Lemurians had the ability to control solar energy, live supernaturally, and utilize crystal energy. They lived in harmony with and respected nature. Some scientists estimate that the population of Lemuria at that time was about 65 million people. They had to study for the first 21 years of their lives to grasp the laws of the universe, and were only considered adults at 28 years of age. Among the customs of the Lemurian people, the premarital challenge custom was the most prominent, strongly reflecting their harmony with nature. Lovers who wished to marry had to undergo a severe challenge. They had to dedicate their courage to the gods. Then, they had to take off all their clothes and go into the forest to live. They had to learn how to build houses, sew clothes from natural materials, and search for food. After 28 days of challenge, if no conflict occurred between the two people, they would have their courage returned and be recognized as husband and wife. Although there is no evidence of the Lemurians, many people believe they still exist today. Some mystical theories even suggest that the Lemurians are currently living deep underground and will only surface at a suitable time. However, if they were a real civilization and had reached such a level, why did they disappear so mysteriously? After reaching the peak of development, the Lemurian civilization vanished mysteriously. It is thought that Lemuria existed concurrently with the Atlantean civilization, and the two civilizations had interactions. However, it was only the scientific experiments conducted at Atlantis that destroyed both civilizations. Or it is also possible that Lemuria was destroyed after a terrible earthquake caused by the polar shift on Earth 26,000 years ago. The polar shift caused the Earth's axis to move, creating a great flood that submerged the entire Lemurian civilization beneath the present-day Indian Ocean, similar to the way Atlantis disappeared. Thus, according to this theory, Lemuria existed and flourished for 52,000 years before forever resting deep at the bottom of the ocean. To this day, what humankind knows about Lemuria is very limited. There are many contradictory opinions among them. Nevertheless, scientific discoveries are also beginning to reveal some evidence of the continent's existence. Whether it is Atlantis or Lemuria, I firmly believe that the ancients intended to allude to another race that was completely superior to us. The land they lived in could truly be called paradise, a place anyone would wish to set foot on. The disappearance of the two legendary continents may not necessarily have been due to being submerged by seawater. Who knows? It could just have been a great migration undertaken by those divine people. This mystery will continue to exist for a very long time. I hope today's video has provided you with new and fascinating information. Thank you everyone for accompanying us, and now we need to join the team. Goodbye, and I wish you all a good day.